There is a feeling in Charlotte right now that I haven't felt in years. It is a mixture of intense hope and absolute, crushing pressure. We have watched this franchise crawl out of the basement, and now we are standing at the edge of something massive. The pieces are finally in place, but that also means there is nowhere left to hide. Before we dive into what this means for our future, hit that like button and subscribe if you are a real Panthers fan. We are building something here, and the faithful deserve to see this journey through together. The story of the Carolina Panthers is shifting from a narrative of survival to a narrative of expectation, and that is a terrifyingly beautiful place to be for this fan base. When you look at the landscape of the NFC South right now, it is clear that the door is wide open for someone to take control, and Dave Canales has positioned us to be that team. For years, this division has been defined by mediocrity, with teams winning it with losing records or barely scraping by with 10 wins. But look at what has happened since Canales took over the sidelines in Charlotte. We went from the embarrassment of a 2-win season in 2023 to a team that fought its way to the top of the division by the end of 2025. It was a remarkable turnaround that showed this coaching staff knows how to build a culture. But culture only takes you so far in this league. Recently, national reports have started giving this roster the credit it deserves, moving us up the rankings and acknowledging that the depth we have built is real. There are fewer holes in all three phases of the game than we have seen in nearly a decade. The defense is finally finding its identity, and the special teams units are solidifying. But all of this progress leads back to one central figure who holds the entire franchise in his hands. This is where the tension starts to build, because as much as we want to celebrate the B grade we are receiving from analysts, we know that grades don't win championships. Performances do. And as the roster gets better, the spotlight on our young quarterback only gets brighter and more intense. We have spent the last 2 years making excuses for the lack of talent around him, but those excuses are rapidly evaporating. Dan Morgan has been aggressive in the front office, ensuring that the infrastructure is finally there to support a winner. But here is the thing. When you build a house this nice, you expect the person living in it to take care of it. Now, this is where it gets interesting, because the conversation is no longer about if we can compete, but about whether our leader can handle the weight. It is a heavy burden, but it is one we have been waiting for someone to carry forward together. When you look at the financial commitment Dan Morgan has made this offseason, it tells you everything you need to know about the urgency inside the building. The signing of Jalen Phillips to a massive 4-year, $120 million deal was a statement that the Panthers are no longer just looking to participate. They are looking to dominate. Bringing in a playmaker like Devin Lloyd alongside him suggests that this defense could be on the verge of a historic rise. We are seeing a general manager who is willing to put his money where his mouth is to ensure that the defense can carry their weight while the offense finds its rhythm. But it is not just the defense that has been overhauled to provide a safety net for our quarterback. Morgan has been relentless in addressing the offensive front, which was arguably the biggest hurdle in previous years. Adding veterans like Rasheed Walker and Luke Fortner on bargain deals was smart, but the real intrigue lies in the youth. Drafting Monroe Freeling out of Georgia in the first round and Sam Hecht in the fifth shows a long-term commitment to keeping Bryce Young upright. For the first time in his career, Bryce is going into a season with what many consider a stout offensive line. This is the best odds scenario that everyone has been waiting for. If you are a fan, you feel that mixture of relief and anxiety because there are truly no more excuses left on the table. If the pocket holds up and the defense keeps the score low, the game rests entirely on the shoulders of the #1 pick. Some analysts remain skeptical, and honestly, can you blame them? They look at the roster and see a playoff caliber team, but then they look at the quarterback position and see a question mark. That uncertainty is the shadow hanging over every positive move we make. We have built a contenders roster, but we are still waiting for a contender's performance under center. The investment in the trenches is supposed to be the final piece of the puzzle, yet it feels like the most stressful piece to fit. We are watching a team that has come a long way in 2 years, but the distance between a B grade and a Lombardi trophy is measured by the growth of one man. The tension is palpable. We are no longer a rebuilding team, we are a team with a roster that demands excellence. This pressure is the new reality in Charlotte. This is where the reality of the NFL really starts to hit home for us as fans. We are entering a make-or-break 4th season for Bryce Young, and the stakes could not be any higher than they are right now. When you look back at 2025, there was definitely progress, but it was marred by moments that made you hold your breath for all the wrong reasons. He started 16 games and even led us into a playoff clash with the Los Angeles Rams. But the inconsistency was undeniable. We cannot ignore the fact that things started off in a nightmare fashion, with 5 turnovers in just his first 5 quarters of the season. Think about that for a second. That is the kind of start that ruins a season before it even begins, and while he showed incredible heart to bounce back, those miscues are what keep coaches up at night. He finished the year with 3,011 yards and 23 touchdowns, which on paper looks like a solid step forward. but the 15 total turnovers tell a much darker story. 11 interceptions and 4 lost fumbles are mistakes that a franchise quarterback simply cannot afford to make if he wants to be the long-term solution. Even in the 34-31 wildcard loss to the Rams, where he threw for over 260 yards and accounted for 2 touchdowns, he still served up a first-quarter interception that changed the momentum of the game. That is the biggest question moving forward. Can he eliminate the early mistakes that put this team in a hole? Because this could become something much bigger than just a few bad games. It could define his entire legacy in Carolina. The pressure of being the top pick is always there, but it feels like it has doubled now that the rest of the team is performing at a high level. We see the flashes of brilliance, the mobility, and the vision, but they are constantly being overshadowed by the what-if of those turnovers. Every time he drops back, there is that tiny voice in the back of your head wondering if we are about to see a highlight or a heartbreak. That is the cycle of emotional looping we have been stuck in, and 2026 is the year where that loop has to break. We are all waiting to see if he can finally turn that corner and lead this team with the consistency we desperately need. I am going to be honest with you all, this situation actually worries me more than I want to admit. I really like the moves Dan Morgan has made, and I think the offensive line depth is the best we have had in years. But there is a specific kind of tension when you pick up a fifth-year option on a player who is still proving himself. It shows that the front office still believes, or at least they want to believe, but it also sets a very clear deadline. Morgan has said he is ready to give Bryce a long-term extension at the right time, but when exactly is that? If he plays well, the price goes up. If he struggles, we are right back in the quarterback carousel that has haunted this franchise for years. I think fans should pay attention to how Bryce handles the first month of the upcoming season. If those early game turnovers continue, the make-or-break talk is going to become deafening. I want to be optimistic. I see the way Dave Canales speaks about him, and I see the weapons we have added, but I also see a quarterback who has to prove he can be the reason we win, not just someone who manages the game while the defense does the heavy lifting. This actually feels like a pivotal moment in Panthers history. If Bryce takes that leap, we are looking at a decade of stability. If he doesn't, we are looking at another massive reset. It is a razor-thin line between becoming a perennial powerhouse in the NFC South and falling back into the cycle of mediocrity. I want to believe that the stout offensive line and the addition of guys like Monroe Freeling will give him the comfort he needs to finally find his stride. But as a fan who has seen the ups and downs of the last few seasons, I can't help but feel that lingering sense of dread. We have given him everything he needs. We have the coach, we have the line, and we have the defense. Now, it all comes down to the guy wearing number 9. It is his team to lead, but it is also his career on the line. We have to hope he is the one. We really do. This season changes everything for our future. The 2026 season is shaping up to be the most consequential year for the Carolina Panthers since we made that run to the Super Bowl. The foundation has been laid by Dan Morgan and Dave Canales, and the roster is deeper than it has been in a long time. But as we head into this make-or-break campaign for Bryce Young, the air in Charlotte is thick with anticipation. This isn't just about winning a few games anymore. It's about confirming the identity of our franchise for the next 10 years. Will we see the version of Bryce that was promised to us as the number 1 overall pick? Or will the inconsistency of the past few seasons continue to hold this talented roster back? The story is far from over, and every single snap this season is going to feel like a playoff moment. I want to know what you think, because this is our team and our future. Do you believe Bryce Young is the man to lead us back to the promised land? Or are you worried that the turnovers are a sign of things to come? Drop a comment below and let's talk about it. We need the real fans to weigh in on this one, because the stakes have never been higher. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to stay updated on everything happening behind the scenes. We are the Panthers faithful, and our time is coming. Keep pounding. Always be ready. Go Panthers.